Hey, Full Armor family, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome in, guys. Thanks for subscribing, watching episode number 1, liking the video, also sharing the video. That really helps. And, we're over 100 subscribers already, and
awesome
in just the first couple of days. So we appreciate that. Our goal is to continue to grow, continue to help people. And also, don't forget, leave those comments below because we do read those.
Yes. And thank you guys for all the positive feedback that you've given us already. I've had so many messages and I am so grateful. So thank you guys so much. Episode number 2 is Andy's testimony. So that's where we're going next. Do you want to open this up in prayer?
Yep.
All right.
Father God, we come to you in the name of Jesus. Lord, I just pray that you give me the words to speak to maybe help someone else in their journey. Lord, let this testimony be all glory to you, and using my life to just continue to do positive things, even after the things that I went through. So, Lord, just ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. So Andy asked me on mine what my earliest memory was. And you know what? It's a good challenge. I think he should tell me what his earliest memory was too.
Ooh, earliest memory. So I know I went to preschool. And I see some pictures and stuff, but I don't really remember. Earliest memory that I remember from like elementary, so kindergarten, right?
Yep. Well, if that's your earliest, yes.
Well, that's the earliest I can remember. When I was younger, I tried to remember. I remembered a lot more. But kindergarten, I guess the most significant thing in kindergarten that I can remember was God rest her soul. She's not alive anymore right now. But there was a girl in kindergarten that offered me a quarter to give her a kiss. With little Coke bottle glasses on. And so, I mean, that's 25 fish, gummy fish at the time. They're only a penny.
Well, I think we've established this entire podcast.
So that's my earliest memory.
Wow.
The next memory I have is like going into first grade. So
you skipped kindergarten? I guess that was kindergarten.
That was the only thing I can really remember in kindergarten. I do remember in first grade needing to move. And so when I grew up, I grew up actually a Jehovah's Witness. So not a lot of people know that. I really didn't understand the religion. I just remember going on Sundays, going to the Kingdom Hall, being forced to sit through a service. All I'd rather do is be outside playing and doing sports. So I don't remember a whole lot of like why. The only thing I knew was it just didn't feel right, which we can get into a little bit later. But when I was in first grade, I just remember that my mom and dad were fighting all the time, and my mom finally had enough and moved out, and we moved to a town. We had to switch schools in the middle of the first grade. So my brother would have been in third grade. And
he's a couple years older than you.
Yeah, he's a couple years older than me. And we moved about 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away to another school. And that was hard as a kid. And growing up in a family that there was a lot of anger and physical abuse and, emotional abuse. And not like physical as far as like sexual abuse, but it was more of violence, anger, temperament. And my dad was a good dad. He wasn't a good husband. So finally my mom had enough. I remember us moving out. And so that stands out to me in first grade.
I was going to ask you, what was that one thing that kind of kept you grounded, kept you moving, I guess, on a better path?
Nothing at that time. Nothing. I was angry.
So you let his anger issues become your anger issues.
Yeah. I know we talked about it before, but I think it's, part of what you grow up around is kind of what shapes you and I want to say programs you, right? So at an early age, our minds aren't developed yet. And it kind of programmed me into being my father and having anger issues. So one thing I remember, like sports were my outlet. I always wanted to win. No matter what, I wanted to win. I was a kid that
Wait. What has changed?
There's nothing wrong with wanting to win. Let's get that straight. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win.
Still 100%
correct.
Fact.
Right. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win. However, I was a very poor loser. And so whenever I lost, that's something. I threw a tantrum. I was angry. I'd throw a fit if it wasn't my way. Like when we get, hey, you want to play this game or hide and seek or whatever it is, it was my way. You know what I mean? Oh, no, these are the rules. This is what we're going to do. Nowadays, we call that leadership quality. Just so you know.
He is a very good leader. However, he still hates to lose. He is a sore loser, and he will always win. And he does not care who you are or how he defeats you. He will win.
I don't cheat.
You don't cheat. But,
okay.
But
that's competitiveness.
Oh,
that's also good leadership qualities. Okay. Just so you know, that comes in handy later in life. However, as a kid, I was a punk.
All right, let's get back. So we're now still in elementary school years. You're angry and you want to beat everybody.
My outlet was sports.
Right. What else sports did you play?
I've started wrestling ever since I think it was kindergarten, first grade. And I was a pretty good little wrestler. And baseball immediately into that. And then, but football came in kind of later into like 12 years old type of thing. And then played those 3 sports growing up.
But your dad was also involved in your sports.
Yeah. So that's why I said I think he was a great father as far as that aspect goes. He would go out, throw the ball with us. He would teach us, the sports. He would actually, coached our little league team. He helped us with wrestling, even though made us watch some videos we didn't really care to watch at that time. So he was there for us. He was also competitive. Mm-hmm. I can also remember going and playing tennis and, him whooping up on us. And whenever we would play, and then I get angry, and then he would just laugh at that. So I think he kind of egged that on a little bit too.
So he made you want to beat him. So you were trying to get better at everything. Yeah,
he had the same competitive drive. He played softball, I remember, as I was growing up, and he wanted to win too. So that was I think it was a good trait. Mm-hmm. Now the anger part of it obviously isn't, because, there's times I can remember as a young kid, my dad worked construction, so he worked out of town a lot. And by doing so, he had all this free time, and he was not a great husband. He was leading a double life a lot of the time. And my mom would come to find that stuff out. When he would come home, he would be, sometimes going to the bars and stuff, drinking. And, there's times where as a child, you're just laying in bed, knowing and waiting for the storm, mm-hmm. right? Just knowing that something's about to explode as soon as he comes through the door. And whenever that happens, then there's physical abuse, right? There's confrontation, there's physical abuse, there's things getting thrown, tipped over, and sometimes I do remember being in the middle of it, trying to protect my mom.
Right. So during that time when your mom left, did she stay out of that situation?
Stay out of...
When she left, did she go back? Did she stay? Did you guys...
No, we went back within, I would say 6 months. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It was less than a year. Right. I do remember, maybe it was that summer because it was the middle of first grade. I do remember starting second grade in the same place, at the original place, the mm-hmm. original school, not Union. By the way, I grew up not Union, Pennsylvania. Oh, I forgot to leave. I left that out.
Yes.
So there was a lot of that kind of stuff. There are a lot of incidents. I don't need to necessarily get into every single one that I can remember, but there are. If you've grown up in a household like that, that there's so many incidents that kind of shape you, define you, and how you deal with them, I guess, your story and your testimony. Everybody mm-hmm. deals with things in a different way.
Right.
Mine was anger and fighting. I get in fights in elementary on the playground with kids. And then in those days, they take you into the principal's office.
Get your butt beat.
And yeah, that's right. You put on the alligator tears. You can put your hands on the desk and the paddle's coming. And then guess what? You get it again when you get home. Mm-hmm. And there was that kind of abuse, and I'm not saying I didn't deserve some of it, because let's be honest. I look back at it. I probably
I beat yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was the loudest kid outside. I would always get mom, I hear you over everybody. Get in the house. Yeah, so that kind of thing. But there was, my dad made a wooden paddle, I remember this incident. He made a wooden paddle, and I'm talking, this paddle was big. It was wooden, handle shaped, and
holes in it.
he drilled holes in it so he could get airflow.
Mm-hmm.
So he could really, when he's bringing it, he's bringing it.
Get the heat.
And yeah, I remember one day, I don't even know what I did. So this is why I don't think, obviously, correcting a child in this manner even works, because I don't even remember what I did. I remember
the punishment.
Exactly.
You don't remember why you're being punished.
Yep. And so I remember he was laying into me in the over the kitchen counter or whatever, and he's going off so much so that my mom had to step in and stop him, and then she ended up burning the paddle. So that was the end of the paddle day. But still got the belt and switch, and then walked down to the
kind
yard.
of attests to the anger issues, because he was in such a rage that he was continuing and not stopping it.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I picked up that trait, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, he wasn't like that. I don't know. And we grew up in the same household. We grew up, pretty much. So when you have a sibling, there's one thing you can say, well, this, no two stories are the same, which, obviously later in life, but we grew up in the same household. Mm-hmm. We grew up doing the same things. So anybody's similar testimony is going to be my brother's, at least for that time frame.
Right.
But he handled it way differently.
Right.
And
because I think we're all kind of cut from a different cloth, and it's something that's instilled in us. And also, like, first child, second child, like, we handle things so different.
Yeah. I'm second child syndrome. That's
so
for sure.
am I, but I turned out to be a good kid.
One thing I do remember, fourth grade, I love sports, and that year was one of my best years, especially at that age, in wrestling. And so I think I turned to sports too, because it was something that whenever I would succeed, I could see how proud my dad was. Mm-hmm. Right. So I was striving for him to be proud of me. And I was honestly, I was a mama's boy. I mean, I was close to my mother. She would bake and do things in the kitchen. I'd be in there helping her.
She took you to Zumba. Oh, yeah, it wasn't
Zumba.
It wasn't Zumba back then. But
it wasn't Zumba.
Or whatever it was.
Yeah, aerobics.
Aerobics.
Yeah, she taught aerobics, and you talk about, footloose type of stuff, right? So you got the spandex and the hot sauce. Yeah, it was really something.
I can see you doing it.
Yeah, I didn't help, but we listened to the music.
But it was more of a trying to make your dad proud, because he wasn't angry at you when he was proud of you. I
don't know. It's just, I guess the look on his face. So in fourth grade, it was AAUs, which is a national championship for wrestling, for at that time in elementary school. And the very first match, I was in a nail biter. I went into overtime. I'll still remember this guy's name, Philip Stanball, because yeah, it's crazy, because I wrestled him. We went into overtime, and I think I ended up losing 9-7. I was crushed. I didn't actually throw a fit. I was more defeated during that one. Sometimes, I'd throw a fit and throw my headgear and all that kind of stuff. Stupid. But this time I was and then my dad saw it, and I remember him just picking me up and carrying me, out of.
Sorry, that's why we keep tissues here. Because that's a moment that you felt him proud of you without you winning. And it's a different feeling. It's a different emotion.
I think that would get me.
We never know when it's going to.
Anyhow, he carried me out. I remember that to this day. And I fought back. That was the very first match I lost in that tournament. I fought back, made it all the way back to going for third and fourth. And I wrestled the same kid, Philip Stanball, came back around, and I ended up beating him. And it wasn't even as close of a match. I ended up beating him the second time. And the funny story is, from that, the reason why I remember him, come my senior year, I wrestled the same kid at States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no kidding. Kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy.
So that's why I know I was striving for his attention and his love and making him proud, because it's those kind of moments that do stand out to me. But the anger, like I said, the anger things just continued in through middle school. I would do things to be a class clown. I remember doing just stupid stuff, in school suspensions or detention, those kind of things that happen in school.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my parents would find out about it. Sometimes I'd make it home before the mail got home. So they didn't know, they really only knew if something happened with sports, right? If I was held out because of something.
Right.
Or somebody talks, because it's a small town.
One of the neighbors calling saying, do you know what your son's doing? Because that happened.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. I mean, it was different times growing up then. You ran, as soon as the sun come up, I wanted to be outside, right? You're eating your cereal, reading the cereal box. We're not on we didn't have cell phones. We're reading, we're reading the cereal box, and I'm like, oh man, wonder if so-and-so's home, or going down the street, hey, you want to come out and play? And, running to the ball field.
Knocking on someone's door.
Yeah, playing hide and seek. And when we played hide and seek, I'm telling you, we were in everybody's business. We were in their yards. We were hiding under their porches. We were in their garages. If their car was open, probably would have hid in their car too.
And that's why the phone calls came to the house. Do you know what your son's doing?
It was so bad. So when I think I was 12, I had a paper out around town, and I would always just go, I would come across somebody playing wiffle ball in their backyard, friends of mine, right? And I couldn't resist. I'd stop delivering papers. I'd play games of wiffle ball, and time got away from me. And my mom's getting phone calls. Hey, we never received our paper. I get home, it's almost dark until I get everything delivered. There was several times of that, because you can't call. It's not like they know where you're at. Right.
You're just out. Well, there was no Life 360 back then.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah. Oh,
so then we get into middle school years, and like I said, it was just I remember some things in middle school. I mean, I can go back and like pull up memories. Nothing like significant other than the continued things. Well, let's go to the religion part of that. We stopped going to the Kingdom Hall probably when I was 10, 12, somewhere in there. The only thing I cared about was, man, it's taking up my Sunday. I want to be out playing. But I never really knew anything about that, again, to talk about that, because the only thing I knew, it just didn't feel right. Something was off. Whenever, you're saying your family's telling you, you can't talk to Uncle Tom anymore because they're getting divorced. And you're like shunning your own family. I'm like, as a young child, I was like, that ain't right. Right. That doesn't feel right.
Because they're still your family, and you're told you're not allowed.
Exactly. That's family. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And so I knew at an early age that wasn't for me. Now we stopped going, but we still carried on those traditions. My mom was raised Jehovah's Witness. My dad was raised Jehovah's Witness, and that's all they knew.
Right.
So that's what they raised us. However, then we ended up stopping going. Now, did we stop going because there was strife in the marriage? I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So,
I don't know that end of it.
Also, for the people who don't know, like, some of the traditional things, like, you didn't celebrate anything.
We didn't celebrate birthdays. We didn't celebrate Christmas. We didn't celebrate any holiday, major holiday you can think of. We would get together as family and have dinners like around Thanksgiving, those kind of things. One thing which is still my favorite holiday. So one thing my mom would do, and dad would be too, but it's mainly mom. She would she would know we were coming after Christmas break back to school, and all the kids would have new clothes and stuff like that. So New Year's Day was our celebration. She would actually purchase, get us gifts, and she wouldn't even wrap them. She would just have them out on our bed. So New Year's Day, we'd celebrate by, getting gifts and stuff on New Year's Day. So that's always been my favorite holiday.
And you get to have something, so you feel like you're celebrating.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, looking back at it, I really appreciate that, because we went to school and had new clothes too. So not a lot of people, not a lot of my friends even knew.
Right.
But
I just never knew when your birthday was.
And well, looking back at it too, there's some things we didn't celebrate, and I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. Like, some of that stuff, we shouldn't be, celebrating Halloween and demonic holidays and things like that now that I see it from a different lens.
Right. And I think that's going to be another show that we do that we talk about some of these holidays and how they've been made into something that they're not. Yes, they're totally commercialized, and we'll get into that in another episode. But yeah, but yes, we agree. So high school, we're moving into high school.
All right. High school. Again, started sports and was into sports, and this time into mainly football. And I remember making the team, and I was a quarterback. My brother, it was his senior year because this would be my sophomore year. And I made the starting lineup to be the starting quarterback.
So you guys got to play together for a year.
We got to play together for a year and ended up having the first ever school's undefeated, football team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we went 10-0, and I'll always remember that because we have a lot of great memories, my brother and I, from not only the football aspect of it, but baseball, wrestling, all that stuff.
Yeah, because you guys got to do a lot of sports together in that little bit of time.
Yeah, words to words combinations.
So
that was, again, a lot of my things that I talk about is sports related because that was my outlet.
Right.
Like, that's what I love to do. If you would ask me whenever I was in school, like, what you're going to be, I'm going to be a professional athlete. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play sports. I love playing sports. I love competition. So, then that sophomore year, also, that would have been, football would have been first. Then wrestling follows football season. And this is one thing, that's what my competitiveness, being a sophomore and wrestling and trying to make the lineup, it was tough. There were a lot of good guys, in the wrestling team, and I couldn't make the starting lineup at, I think it was 171 and 160. I ended up cutting 20 plus pounds down to 152 to make the lineup, and I was skin and bone. I remember,
people that don't know, you're 6'4". Like, you're not a little dude.
No, and to do that was a lot of, just to make the lineup. Like, I mean, that's how bad, how competitive I was. And then you didn't have to take all the tests you have to now, and you're able to cut as much weight as you wanted to, wear trash bags, all that kind of stuff. And so I made the lineup, only got through about half the year, and dislocated my elbow in a match. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't that sad. I got to eat. I wasn't that sad.
You're like, all right, freedom.
It was like almost like an excuse, like, because Dad also was a big driver behind, making the lineup and getting in there. So I wasn't that sad. But then getting into junior year, again, sports, we had an amazing baseball team. We won states in my junior year. We were runner up my senior year in the state championship. Football after my sophomore year wasn't, we had all right teams, but we didn't have anything like we did, the sophomore year. But wrestling, I strived in wrestling, made states my junior year.
You can tell you're from Mount Union because you say wrestling.
Wrestling. Wrestle. Hey, that's almost like a Southern slang, isn't it? But I was North. I don't know. But anyhow, thanks for calling that out.
Sorry.
And then senior year, I did well in wrestling and district regional.
Wrestling.
I know, wrestling. So that's enough about the sports. I just once I lost the sport, like after school, so after high school, graduated high school, my brother went into college, and so he's 2 years older than me. So, my senior year at home, I'm just fighting about finances and money because they're buying books and all this, student loans. And so that turned me off from college. Like, I had some offers to go to college. It just wasn't for me. I'm like, I'm not fighting with Dad over money and everything else. I'm not doing it. So I just went into the workforce right out of high school. And it was, was working. This is post high school. I want to say, man, I'm 19 years old.
Yeah. You'll be 18, 19.
Dating a girl that's still younger than me. She's still in high school. And we just had something happen. I don't even remember what it was, but we ended up breaking up. And I ended up got attempting suicide.
That's good.
So I had a Ford Probe GT coming down, and this is how I know like
God is real.
God is real, and that I was still here for a purpose, because I had this humongous, I don't know if it's an oak tree or what. I'm talking twice the size of me. I mean, this tree was, and it's along a straight stretch, right? I go like a roundabout up over the mountain, come back down the other side, and I'm just flying. I bet I'm going 100-mile-an-hour. And as soon as I kind of like, and I see that tree and I'm starting to go like veer towards it, and I'm going head on for it. And I don't know for what some reason, at the very last second, I'm telling you, I'm going head on to this tree, and I have no seatbelt on.
Right. Your intentions were
That was
definitely
it.
strong.
That was it. And I felt something jerk the wheel to the driver's side, to the left, just before the tree, which prevented the car from going straight into the tree. Instead, it just clipped the passenger side down over an embankment and then came to a rest. I don't know. I was just like underneath. Obviously, I hit the steering wheel, hit whatever else. It didn't eject me or anything. I was taking, somebody called the ambulance or whatever. Honestly, during that time, I just laid there. I'm like, I'm not dead. Like I wanted to be, you know what I mean? And I wasn't. And I had no idea what was going on. They ended up taking me to the hospital. I literally walked away with no broken bones. And I think I might have had a scratch on my face. That's it.
And that was that first God wink where you should have known.
I should have, but I didn't.
Right. Because you didn't start a walk yet.
Right.
It's a process. And I think we all have these moments where God shows up, but we don't understand it until later in life.
Yeah.
But it sticks with you. It becomes a memory. Like it's a core memory.
I had angels over me that day. Yeah. There is no doubt about it. I wish I still had pictures of that. I knew we had something unbelievable. The car, the way the car looked, and for me to walk away with a scratch is unreal. No, nothing. Right. No broken, nothing wrong. So I was protected that day for sure. But obviously there's some stuff going on, right? There's stuff that's not normal.
Right.
You know,
you're going through emotions that you don't know how to process.
Right. And maybe it's loss, right? Maybe it's like, again, I was a poor loser and I may have felt I was too proud. I don't know. I mean, all those things I look back at, like, why would you attempt that over a breakup? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So yeah, that was right out of high school. And then another girl I was dating on and off throughout high school. We got back together, and shortly thereafter, she became pregnant.
Wait, how old were you at this point?
I was 19, still 19. Yeah, it was shortly after that, all that happened, probably a few months. Yeah. And she didn't want to tell her dad. Her mom, she told, but she didn't want to tell her dad. So we kept it a secret and rushed a wedding together because I feel like that was the right thing to do at the time. And I don't even know if her dad ever did know so we got married in September, maybe something like that year of 97. And then I had my son in February of 98. He was born. So I had a child at the age of 19. And I wasn't ready to be a dad.
Yeah. Most 19-year-olds aren't.
No.
But you were still a dad. Like you were there.
What do you mean?
You were still involved. It's not like you.
Well, yeah, I was
ran off, but I want that part to be known. Like you didn't just have a baby and disappear.
No, I didn't. Actually, we got married. We moved to closer to where I was working, and bought a trailer and was living there. Actually, we're renting an apartment first, and then shortly thereafter bought. But I wasn't a good husband. Like, again, I was angry. You know what I mean?
You were also still a child. Like,
but that doesn't.
Yeah, that doesn't navigate. Right.
That doesn't excuse the fact of I was not a good husband, and if if that person's watching this or whatever, still holds resentment and things. I get it. I look back into some of the things that I did and am very ashamed of. And I admit I was not, there was infidelity. I was my dad.
Mm-hmm. You were the guys I dated.
I was exactly became what I didn't like about the parts of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was that person. Maybe that's what drew you to me.
We'll get later down the line to explain more.
Yeah, but had a child at an early age, and then a year after having that child, my mom and dad had split during this time. So as soon as I graduated high school, mom finally I think she just stuck it out until my brother and I were both out of the house. Because when I graduated high school, then she finally moved out and was moving on. And my dad couldn't handle that. Mm-hmm. So as much as he cheated over the years and was, with the infidelity, I can remember, other ladies calling or whatever. Oh, I didn't know she was married, and leading these double lives, right? As much as she dealt with that over the years and stuck in, and finally, because she only left the one time when I was in first grade. We didn't leave again. She left again whenever I graduated high school, shortly thereafter. He just couldn't handle that. She started dating somebody that he was working with, and
I know I'm going to eat this. I'm just going to get ready. This is the disclaimer that this is a really heavy part of this testimony. Take a deep breath.
So she's starting to date someone, and he just couldn't handle it. And my brother was still living at home with him at the time. He didn't sense anything, but there was one night, it was October of 99, like the 19th, 20th, somewhere in there. And he ended up going to this guy's house and waited outside, parked down the street or something, waited outside and waited for that guy to come out. My mom was staying there, waited for that guy to come out from work, and he shot him. He then immediately went in to the house. After my mother, and was going to take her out as well. Not sure exactly what all went on inside the house. I just remember some parts of the story are saying that she's pleading for him to call 911 because she can still hear him the other guy out there gasping and gurgling, and he ends up going out and taking another shot and coming in. Instead of taking my mom's life, he took his own life right in front of her.
And I think that was another God moment. Even in the hard parts of it, I think she was saved for a reason.
For sure. I don't know why. And the reason why I know his intention was to do that was because then later, after all this, I don't know if it was a day or we found, my brother ends up remembering, like, I remember hearing him come into my bedroom or whatever, and he was sleeping, and he looked under the bed, and there was like some money, and there was a note apologizing to my brother and I.
Mm-hmm. But he had no intention of taking his life in that note, did he?
Yes.
He did. He was taking everybody's.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he spared her life. Thank God.
Yeah. She definitely lived through some trauma. Yeah. She's an amazing person.
For sure. And don't worry, I already warned her.
This is
whatever you do, don't listen to episode number 2, because there are just some things that you don't need to relive. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I just remember I called off that day. I called off from work that day, but I called off a lot at that age. Like, I just didn't have the same work ethic as I do, later in life. But I was home, and I remember a knock on the door. And at this point, we owned a trailer, and it was my in-laws, and they broke the news to me. So I'm living at this time from where this incident happened. I'm living at least an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long car ride.
Yeah.
So I'm with my father-in-law takes me, mother-in-law stays with my wife and child, and I take the long drive to where the incident happened. At the time, I'm glad that when grief happens, it happens to everybody differently.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I'm so glad that, obviously my mom's still here and all this. And then you get, oh, you want to hear some details. Okay. And then you do. But then after a little bit, I started to become angry and surprising.
Right. Because you still didn't know how to process. That was yours.
I became angry at my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I became angry with her for it wouldn't have happened if, you didn't date somebody that he was friends with, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't talk to my mom for a couple of years. Like I really let that spiral down and didn't talk to her for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until, when I'm going through this grief, again, the grief stage is different for everyone, but I also remember, man, how my heart was hurting losing my father, but how much love I felt when my son was born. And so in maturity, I'm like, well, let's have another, let's have it. So
fill the void.
Let's have another child. So my marriage isn't going well, but yet, I'm trying to fill a void in a heart that nothing can fill. You don't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So end up having a second child, by the age of 21. So,
2 kids and a wife at
2
21.
kids, and the marriage wasn't great. So even a few months after my daughter was born, then that would have been 2000, August of 2000. It was only a few months, probably within that beginning of that next year, that we ended up splitting and getting a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But then I didn't talk to my mom again probably for 2 more years after that. So I have a great relationship with her now.
Yeah.
Actually came around right when she met someone else and was getting married, and I ended up being part of her wedding. That was we did. I think it was just before her wedding when we started, communicating again.
Yeah, she missed out on some good years. She's a good person.
I know.
But
again, throughout all this, again, I keep talking about like the anger issues and stuff. Now I played baseball outside of school. Like there was some softball too.
Mm-hmm.
And it had, even when Dad was still alive, was able to, right out of high school, play some softball, a couple of years of softball with my brother and
Mm-hmm.
Dad and everything. But there were incidents within that I remember it's so stupid. Like I'm pitching and I don't know, 20 years old. I'm pitching a baseball game. It's not going well. Guy hits a home run and he just is so arrogant about it. He's like, see ya. And he just trots around the bases.
Something you would have done if the shoe was on the other foot?
Probably. I mean, I obviously threw the wrong ball, but I harbored that and I got taken out of the game a little bit after. I'm on the bench. I'm telling you, this is several innings later. The game ends and we're walking through shaking hands and I just popped the guy it's silly. It's silly. So there's so much, and some of you guys are probably laughing because you're like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Andy, yeah.
Earned the reputation.
Yeah. So if you're on here, if I punched you over the years, I apologize. I apologize. Some of this is because of the way in which I was raised, but a lot of it is because of my own choices and my own actions, and I was not the person I should have been at the time. So I apologize if you're one of those people. You feel free to leave a comment. That's fine.
It's a true testament, though, to be able to look back and be like, well, that dude deserved it. Like to not say that, but to be like, you know what? I was the problem.
Yeah.
Because that's a sign of maturity. And that's just such a growth aspect. And I think when we go through these processes in life, we don't see it in the moment. But when we can look back and be like, man, like the way God has changed me is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's definitely changed you.
Yeah. for sure. But it wasn't until later. So
No, I
I'm
know.
still in
Yeah,
my early.
we're
I'm still
still.
in my early 20s. You know, the reason why that marriage fell apart was because of my own abuse. So I was physically abusive and also mentally abusive, and infidelity. And
Right.
so that marriage was 100% my fault why everything ended the way in which it did. Um, then it was early 2000, maybe 2001. I met somebody and got married for the second time. Um, Now, during this time, um, I was improved husband wise. However, during the dating phase, there was one incident where I cheated. There was one incident, and it was a one and done type of thing. However, when I was caught in that, you know, I was lied out of it. And however, that my ended up being my second wife. She knew at the time, like she would continue to ask. And it wasn't until 7 years into the marriage that finally something happened, and I finally just admitted it. But that was I was married for 16 years, nearly 16 years that time,
And you
and
guys never had kids together.
never had kids together. However, she had 3 kids when I met her. Uh, and they were younger, but there was one. The youngest daughter was 3 months old. All 3 of her children had the same father, um, and but he never had anything to do with the youngest child. So she only had, and by the time she was 2 years old, we ended up asking him to sign off of her, and I ended up adopting her. So that again, throughout that marriage, I didn't until the separation happened. There was no infidelity on my part, zero. So I did change that part. Like
Right.
I am proud of that aspect of okay. I went 16 years. That
So you knew that trend could be broken.
I did, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and I broke that trend. However, I wasn't a great father. So again, there was, and not the best husband either. You know, so that part of me I changed, but I didn't change everything else that could have been because I didn't have a walk with Christ at the time.
Right.
That's what I look back at and I'm like, what is different? What is different is you'll find out that later, whenever I find Christ, then that's what changes things. That's the only thing that changes things. I wasn't changed. I can't do it on my own.
Right.
And I tried and I've failed miserably.
Well, let's talk about what happened when you got divorced from the second wife.
Well, again, so here's one of the biggest regrets that I have out of that marriage. There was towards the end, I remember her saying, we should go to church. I'm like, going to church isn't going to do anything for us. I remember saying that specifically. And that's one of the biggest things. I'm like, man, I should have never said that. You know, you don't
but you don't know what you don't know. Exactly.
I know. And so that all ends. I mean, you know, and as that's getting ready to end, you know, I remember just once it ended, I'm like, man, I'm just, you know, I don't know if it's revenge or what, but I'm just like, I'm going back, you know, you want to do this? That's fine. You know, watch, I'm going back to my 20s. I'm going to, you know, and I hurt a lot of people along the way. You know, I mean, you call me a player. I mean, it's despicable is what it was. And there's no excuse for it. So if you're listening to this again, I've hurt many women along the way by leading them on and into a short relationship. And then just like, it was nothing for me to walk away. They were totally invested and I would nothing for me to walk away or to find the next person.
Right. Because it was almost like using them for the moment until the fun wore off.
Or I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if it was, again, a facade of dealing with, you know, a divorce that, you know, I was invested in for that long.
Right.
But regardless, it's inexcusable and I hurt a lot of people and I'm sorrowful for that.
And again, another testament of maturity is being able to admit these things and to be like, yeah, I was definitely on the wrong path.
I was off the rails. I mean, I was started to play some baseball again because I feel like after, I'm in my late 30s, but there was an old man league or whatever in State College, and my brother was playing in, so I started playing in that. And what's that? So here we go. Talking about off the rails. What's that? What's the dating app that you swipe left, swipe
Tinder.
right, whatever? Tinder. Is that what it is? Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Do not recommend.
No. The answer is no. Don't ever get on the dating sites. I was onto those dating sites. I met somebody that I only knew for 14 days. And I laughed at Jody's testimony because she said she went to Vegas after knowing somebody for how long?
3 months.
Oh, 3 months. Okay. 14 days.
He beat me. Our stories intertwine often.
14 days. And I meet someone. I'm planning a trip. I'm going to San Diego. I've never been over that far out of the country, or out of the States. No, wasn't out of the country. So no. I don't even know.
Across the country.
So I've never been over that far. So I went to San Diego or whatever, and ended up inviting this girl over, and we drove to Vegas and got married after 14 days. It was a great decision.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very mature decision.
Just like my 3-month decision. Yours is a 14-day decision.
Yeah. It was shortly after that married. As soon as I got married and got back and we got living together, and it was like within the first 30 days, I knew it was the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's just not as easy to get out of.
Yeah, it wasn't. And to that wife, I was a horrible husband. Like, no doubt about it. I was a horrible husband. I wanted out of the marriage. I cheated on purpose just because she said she would never get a divorce unless there's infidelity. So I made that happen. That was my thought. It's not right. I was sleeping with my ex-wife at that time, and that was not a great decision.
Really?
So there was, as that's going, and I don't blame her for some of the things that transpired to end that marriage. Like, I wanted out and I wanted a divorce. I actually moved out. I moved in Bloomsburg with her, and then I moved out and I was splitting. I would, and for whatever reason, got talked into allowing her to, wanted to patch and move in with me at an apartment. And I did, but that didn't end well. Like, she knew that there was infidelity, and there was an incident that I want to talk about because it was in the papers. Mm-hmm. Like, when the paper, like, whenever the news comes out, like, it only shows one side of the story.
Right. And you got a bad rap.
I did. And in a small town.
Yeah. And you never got to put your side of the story out. And
no,
we both actually felt the repercussions of that after the fact.
Yeah. And so, I was living in a small town, and I knew that, like, she just trying to set me up. Like, I could feel it. Like, there was an incident where I was just trying to, like, get away for the night or whatever. And she's not even from the area. And I was like, I knew that something was off. Right. So I'm sitting, I'm like, okay, she thinks I'm going to this bar or whatever down the road. So I'm going to sit by this light. I'm going to kind of, like, watch and see when she comes through the intersection. Didn't come through the intersection. She pulled up behind me in an alleyway right beside me and was like, "Who are you waiting for? I know you're waiting for somebody." I'm like, "I'm waiting for you." No joke. I'm waiting for you. And so she didn't, well, we're going to sit here and we're going to wait for whoever it is we're waiting for. And I was like, all right. So then eventually enough was enough. And I was like, I'm out of here. So I started going down, and I know the back roads. I started going down. My phone lights up with my number, my name, and says, "F you." And I'm like, what the heck just happened? Like, my phone texts me with me saying like whatever it was. And I'm like, what is going on? So finally, that's where I was like, all right. So she's either, like, tracking me or something with the phone. I don't know. It was good. Hey, props. It was good. It was good investigative, stuff. Yeah, going on there. I'm not even sure how exactly he did it. Nor does it matter at this point. But she's tracking me. And so I knew something was up. Like, she's trying to catch me in something. So there was a night that she was then finally, I would tell her, that's it. Getting your stuff and going out. You need to get the kids. You got to go. Like, that's it. Like, I'm done. And she tried to grab, I had my phone, and she tried to grab my phone out of my hand. and I took it back. And she's on top of me on the bed and just wrestling with me. And she starts screaming bloody murder because her children are in the house. Like I'm on top of her, beating the heck out of her, screaming that. And I'm like, this girl, she's nuts. And she finally got out of the bedroom. I shut the bedroom door, locked it, and she's, chirping, all this kind of stuff going on. Okay. Finally, she's like, I'm leaving. And I had a dog at the time. I'm letting him out of the cage. He's going to chew everything up, blah, blah, blah. Finally hear the door close. I wait a while. But I'm like, all right. As soon as I start, this has to be 5-10 minutes. I'm like waiting. I don't hear anything. I'm like, okay, she is gone. I open the bedroom. As soon as I crack that bedroom door open, boom, she shoulders into it, I'm trying to like block the door and keep the door closed. And she's finally ended up pushing her and getting her out of the bedroom and shutting the door and closing the door and locking it. And the next morning, finally she left, and nothing else that night. The next morning, I'm talking to the guy at work, and I'm like, after work, I said, I'm reporting this to the police. Like, I just, there's something, she's not right. So I went, reported it to the police, and they finally end up contacting her, and she come up with this whole other side of the story that I threw her down and beat her and all this other stuff. And they end up taking her side of the story, and I got put in handcuffs. I got arrested.
Right. For reporting abuse to yourself.
Yeah. It was my report. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Had I not said anything, probably nothing, maybe never would have heard from her again. Well, yeah, would have, but because we did, but yeah, that is a true story. Yeah. So when you see it in the paper, you see one side of the story, and the small town believes what they read, but never.
Also, this was just an accusation. This was never anything that went any farther than that. But at the time, they processed the report and the names in the paper. Yeah. But you were never arrested.
No. I was arrested. I put handcuffs that night.
But you were never.
But then I was released.
Charged. Yeah. That's the word. Exactly. You were never charged.
No, I pled to misdemeanor just because they're like, well, it's your word against hers, and if it goes, and I got a lawyer and all that kind of stuff. I actually had pretty good. I actually had the videotape of it because I started the iPad whenever, because I was like, all right, I'm recording because something's going down tonight.
And you showed them video evidence. Yeah, and you still.
I could have fought the whole thing. I chose not to. I chose to just give her a car, and
that you just jumped ahead there. So you decided you're going to, at this point, you're getting a divorce.
Yeah,
and because you got married in Vegas, can you just get an annulment?
No, you can't just get an annulment. Man, the movies are lying.
I know.
You can't just be like, oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there's definitely stipulations to that.
No, it's not as easy. That was a big mistake. That was about $25,000 mistake right there. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as you say I do, the other spouse is entitled. They can have 1 year of alimony.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I just ended up giving her a car. The car that I had 2 vehicles. I had a Jeep and a car at the time. Ended up just signing over the car and walking away from it.
Right.
And so when that was all finalized, so I'm in the courthouse getting all this stuff done. Yeah, she's going to agree to the car and not alimony, and the divorce papers. She's going to sign them, and that's going to be done. It's going to be done. I'm like, wow, thank goodness. At this point.
Yeah,
at this point, do I know Christ? So let's just start. Let's
reverse to that. Yes, I was just going to ask you that.
At this point, I'm starting to feel like, you know what I mean? Like there's something else. Mm-hmm. And
had you gone to church?
I started going to church. Yeah, I started going to church right. Even though I was, not a great husband, obviously, but I started to feel like, yeah, there's something there. So.
You just kind of got that nudge that you needed to go to church. And so when you guys were still together, you were actually going.
I was. And I gave my life to Christ, but I don't think, obviously looking back at it, wasn't fully at that time. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was at that time, but it wasn't until a little bit later.
So what kind of church was it?
Non-denominational.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. So that was one thing that I raised, you thinking back, okay, you were raised Jehovah's Witness. How did you raise your kids? I raised my kids without without that religion.
Mm-hmm.
Now we didn't go to church, but celebrated holidays and things like that. But anyhow, finishing up all this stuff, getting ready to signed all this stuff over. Go back to Jody's testimony.
So I'm sitting in my office and I hear in my spirit, now.
And sends me that message on Facebook.
Yes,
I was walking
send him a friend request.
out of the courthouse, down the steps of the courthouse, and I turned my phone on, my phone pinged, and there was
a message. Or actually, you got a Facebook friend request from me.
And a message, do I know you?
Yeah.
So
that's where this story really intertwines.
But how crazy is that? Like you hearing now, and I'm literally walking out of the courthouse, finalizing divorce papers and alimony stuff, and walking away from, I would say the
biggest.
It's the biggest mistake I made, obviously. And it's no diss to that wife, right? Because
it just
again,
wasn't a good decision.
When I look at it, and if you're watching this, I don't blame you for a lot of stuff you did. However, the lying part of it is kind of but you know what? I lied and cheated, so I can't blame her for that either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I forgive you. I forgive everyone that hurt me in the process, and, hopefully find it in your heart to forgive me.
Right. So I want to pick up kind of this route of I text you, you responded. Now, here's kind of a little crux of all of this. We had both started going to church. We had both started going to a non-denominational church. What we didn't know is we were going to the same church.
Yeah.
We were literally at the same church, started around the same time, and didn't know each other. And we do later find that our paths crossed so many times. Like we literally lived in the same town at one point. He grew up a town away from where my grandparents lived, my dad's parents.
I wrestled against your school where I know you were a cheerleader at the time.
Yeah, and I was a cheerleader. We ended up, Jeremy, if you're watching, that was one of our things that we had this realization of, that he wrestled the kid that I graduated with, and we're like, wait, and we actually pulled a tape and watched it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there was
not a tape. I put it on DVD.
Yeah. It used to be a tape. But we had so many moments where our paths crossed, but we didn't know each other. But I think the reason we didn't is because he was the guy.
I was the guy
that I was constantly dating, and it wouldn't have worked had we not both been directed to walk into church.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
I know.
Get more into
I know we want to tell our story together of how we actually ended up, deciding that we were going to be in a relationship, and how all that kind of went. But I will say, in the beginning, there was so much negativity and hate around our relationship. So many people.
For some of the people around us, yeah.
Yeah. So many people.
Not us.
Right. Not like we knew.
Yeah.
We knew, right? It was a weird connection. So I used to say he was my twin flame. Like he was literally the other half of me. And I can't explain it, but we knew. And so many people just,
that's all right.
We fought hard.
Yeah.
And
we'll get into that. We'll get into some of that and some of the friendships that weren't really friendships.
Yeah. I had to cut people out of my life, and so did you. So
yeah. So that'll be episode number 3. You want to tune in. That's my life in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Your testimony.
It is my testimony.
When did you fully give your life though to Christ? Because
all right, so here it was probably towards the end of that second marriage. The one thing I skipped over was right before we ended that marriage.
She asked you if you wanted to go to church.
Yeah, but I was, feeling something different, right? Because her uncle, I forgot all about this.
This is
her uncle was getting ready to go under dialysis and needing a kidney. And this was sometime in 2016. I want to say the beginning, maybe February, March, April, I don't know, somewhere in there when I found out all this. I never gave blood. I never knew what my blood type was, but the place of employment where I was at had a blood drive in February of 2016. I gave blood, and later on they send you a card in the mail, and I was O positive, right? So I'm in Walmart one day. My ex-wife and I were in there, and her uncle and aunt, we meet them down the aisle, and they're like telling us this story about he getting ready to go under dialysis and stuff. I was like, John, what's your blood type? He was like, O positive. I was like, I just got my blood type. It was O positive. I looked at it and I said, why don't you see what we can do to go through the living donor process? And they just kind of looked at me like, and I'm like, I'm serious. So the next appointment he did, we got information on it. There's a lot of testing and stuff you have to do before that. You go, and I got to give blood, and they got to verify. Then you got to go get blood, and he has to give blood the same day, and they mix your blood and they make sure that his body's not going to reject it. They actually do that twice. And my thought at the time, even though I didn't fully give my life to Christ at the time, I knew something. I was like, if it's meant to be, everything will go through, and this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. Not knowing that it's God's plan, right? So if it's meant to be, then obviously later knowing if it's God's plan, everything's going to work. And it worked, and everything passed. And the end of September of 2016, went in. I donated a kidney to this man, and he's still going. Yeah, we're 20 almost 10 years later. Yeah, and that was just one thing that was put on my heart to do. And here's the reason why. And I even remember when I stopped in at my grand's. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a lot of contact with my family on my dad's side or on my mom's side. I mean, a little bit more there, but not on my dad's. And stopped in to see my grand one time.
And she's still an active Jehovah Witness.
What's that?
She's still an active Jehovah Witness.
She is. And we sat down with her. Remember, we just surprised her. We knocked on the door and we went in.
They'd like to do that to us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't take a watchtower or anything. I mean, I had no agenda other than to talk. And as we're sitting there, she's sitting across. And I remember we were sitting on the couch. She was sitting on a chair to the left of us. And she said, I heard something about you, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. And I'm like, oh, what's that? And she said, well, I heard you donated a kidney. Well, I guess in the religion of Jehovah Witness, that they don't believe in blood transfusions and obviously giving kidneys and all that kind of stuff. And I just looked right at her. I said, Graham, here's how I see it. My dad took a life and I saved a life. So I'm trying to turn the karma back in the right direction.
She just looked and didn't know what to say.
she didn't know what to say. That was the last time I talked to her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's been a long time ago.
Yeah. It's been several years.
But also, the other thing I skipped over and I forgot to mention.
Wait, let me add one little key piece. Again, how I said our lives intertwine.
Yeah.
The guy he gave his kidney to was my elementary school janitor.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up. You cannot.
Right. But even so, I even knew our marriage was coming to an end, but that didn't. This guy is amazing. John is amazing. Mm-hmm. Danita, amazing family. And it makes me happy that now they have grandchildren, and who knows if he would have been around to see that and be able to have that time with them. Right. So, man, it's rewarding. Out of all the sports, and I'm proud of that is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. So if you have an opportunity, you can live with one kidney. I lived with one kidney for the last 10 years, and I'm perfectly fine. You don't even know you're missing it. Mm-hmm. So if you have an opportunity to help someone like that, I encourage you to. If it's God's plan, it will all work out flawlessly.
Yes.
But the other thing, talking about my Graham. So this was my dad. I talked about the incident with Dad, and whenever he passed, this was 99. Mm-hmm. 5 years later, almost 10 days after. So 5 years and 10 days later, his dad, my pap, also took his own life in his shed. I don't know any details behind any of that. I just know it's just like one of those things that I'm like, and then what kind of spirit is on us? You know what I mean? It's kind of how I look at it now, knowing Christ. Like, what kind of spirit was in our family that I was the first one that wanted, that attempted to, but was spared. Then my dad did. Then
Your grandfather.
My grandfather did.
Yeah, and I think now you've kind of broken that chain because you've spoken out about it. You've really done things to try to, change that, encourage that. I've watched you talk to so many people and they've had, very down in the dumps and probably having those thoughts, and you've talked them out of that. So,
but I had those thoughts over the years too, and especially after, marriages were ending and things like that. So there was definitely a spirit there. And I did make the decision that it ends here.
Right.
Because I do have, children, even though we don't have a great relationship with them. And again, that's my fault as a father. I feel like I failed my children over the years as a father. I wasn't a father that I could have been or should have been.
Right. And it's a division that is hard to fix.
Yeah.
Even if you try.
It is. Oh, there's a lot more stuff, but those are the kind of the key things that I wanted to share, because those are the things that at an early age, it defines us, it shapes us. We respond, everybody responds differently to trauma and things that happen in grief. And, but there's a brighter side,
right?
And I'm about to get into with our testimony together on how God
how he works,
has worked and used us. And I often look back at what the tree incident, if my life would have ended then, how much I look back at how many people I've impacted since then,
right? Many.
With John and with, the Full Armor family, everything we're going to get into next.
Yeah. But I think all of this tied together between my testimony and your testimony, the one thing I want people to know is no matter what, there is hope. Like you are worth it. You aren't, any less than. God and Jesus love you. Like they want everything for you. They want the best for you.
You have a purpose.
Right. You have a complete purpose. You might not know what it is. I mean, some days we don't know what ours is, but you just let the Lord guide you. It's crazy because I hear so many stories, and I've had people reach out to me with things that they're dealing with. What's missing in your life and in the people's lives that you're trying to help is Jesus. Like, I know I say it all the time and people are like, man, that's all you guys talk about. You're right. Yeah. It is.
And when it stirs in your heart, that's what you'll be talking about.
Right. It's so hard
because you want people to know. You want people to have that relationship, because as we're going to get into this, our testimony together, that is the reason why we've done the things we've done, was because when we have accepted that, truly accepted that, not just, okay, yeah, I accepted it, and then I go back to, and I didn't really repent, and I go back to my wicked ways. When you truly accept Jesus into your heart and you move in a different direction, it's a game changer.
You move with him.
It's a game changer.
You don't move against him.
Exactly. You move away from the path you were going. You turn a 180 and you're going in the other direction.
Yeah, it will change your life. And I can't wait to hear the stories and the testimonies from you guys that come out of this, to be like, man, like I didn't really know what to do, but I picked up my Bible and my life's so different now. Like, reach out to us.
Share some comments.
Yeah.
Look, you can comment. You can personally send me a message. If there's somebody on there that's like, man, you affected my life this way that I want to tell you about. And that could be a negative thing, right? It could be somebody that punched in the face. If you want to talk, look, I would love to talk to you. If it was somebody I hurt deeply, I would love to talk to you and be able to talk through some of the things that maybe you still have a grudge about or feelings about in a certain kind of way. Then maybe you want some answers, and I'll try my best. I will be truthful. That is one thing I will do. I will accept my flaws. I will accept where I've made mistakes, and I'll be 100% transparent and truthful with you.
You have definitely turned a corner many years ago, and because obviously I wouldn't be with you otherwise. But we are stronger together for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you guys
hit
for
that
listening.
Subscribe button, like this video, comment below. We love you guys, and we'll see you soon.
See you guys.